All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to be here to join us for our December Fit for Learning webinar. And as you can imagine, what we really want to do today is just to walk you through a recap of 2023. And as many of you know, as educators, we have the opportunity to work with hundreds, if not thousands of individuals on a year-over-year basis. And so as we're working with these individuals and talking to folks, there's definitely certain trends that we see. There's certain topics that people continually are asking about, maybe challenges that they're facing. And so for today, as we do that recap, we're going to share with you some of the most frequently asked questions and frequently requested topics. And then we're going to talk through, what are some of these different money moves that you can make as you approach year end? Because I think at the end of the year, it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to reflect on what went well, what maybe didn't go so well, but most importantly, having a plan and figuring out what you're going to be changing as you move into the new year. My name is Kyle Bingham. I'm the Managing Director for Financial Fitness for Life, and joining me today is John Poole. He's one of our education consultants. And we'd like to kind of keep this a little bit more conversational. So again, what we're going to do today is center our conversation around 4 questions essentially. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are life events. What are life events? What has occurred in your life? And how has that impacted your financial plan? Or what is it that you need to do as a result of those life events with your personal finances? Then we're going to talk about reviewing your expenses for 2023 and then thinking about how to incorporate any changes into your budget. We'll also talk a little bit and remind you to check your credit score and to make sure that you do an inventory of the debts that you have. Then we'll talk more about a little bit about the stock market performance, but most importantly, your investment strategy. What's going on in your retirement accounts? Do you have other investment accounts? And what's going to be the plan for how you're going to be investing that money in 2024? And then lastly, we're going to talk about goal setting. Again, just at a high level, we'll talk about whether or not you've hit your goals for 2023 and then moving into 2024. What are some of the short-term and long-term goals that make sense for you to be setting for yourself? And so with that, I'm going to kick it over to John for a few moments. So John, talk to us a little bit about what is a life event, and you can maybe give us a couple examples, but most importantly, when folks are going through some of these different life events, what does that mean for their financial plan?
Well, thanks, Kyle. And I know that we can all see the various graphics here and life events, and you might have all of them going on at once, which would make you pretty overwhelmed, I'm sure. But I bet that most of us have at least a couple of these that have happened in 2023. Life events, as we can see, it can be a change to your personal status, marriage, divorce, having a child. Or even, something that we might not consider a major life event, but can be financially impactful, which is maybe you've shifted into a new career, maybe you've changed jobs within your current industry, and a lot of times that involves relocation or buying or selling a home. Now, we could probably talk for a good 15 or 20 minutes, which we won't do today, don't worry, about buying or selling a home, especially with current market conditions. But whatever life events that you may have had this year or maybe currently going through, you can imagine that can certainly affect your financial plan in the short term, month to month, paycheck to paycheck, or it could certainly affect, any sort of other long-term planning. And it's best, I think a lot of us will recognize the need. It's best to go ahead and prioritize those events and how they are impacting us right now and years down the road.
Exactly, John. And I think too, like as we're walking through all of these different things, I think we're wanting to kind of do almost a mental checklist of sorts. And I think that oftentimes when these life events occur, to John's point, they're probably having a large impact on your life. And I think sometimes the idea of figuring out how that does impact your financial plan sometimes gets put on the back burner. And so as you're reflecting on your year, just think about, what are some of these life events that have happened, and have I actually sat down to kind of walk through how that really is impacting me financially? And one other quick tip I'll mention here too as well. Oftentimes with life events, it will in some way, shape, or form have an impact on your estate plan or your estate planning. Maybe it's just as simple as updating a beneficiary designation, but maybe it also includes going in and updating some of your estate planning documents. So oftentimes, again, just make a mental note of that. When these events are happening, let's sit down, let's see how it's impacting your financial plan, but don't forget how it could be impacting your estate planning as well. Now, kind of pivoting a little bit here, when we talk about managing cash flow, it can mean a lot of different things. And I think what we'll walk through next are some things that can help you with budgeting your money, hopefully to improving your cash flow. But we're also going to talk for a moment about some apps and tools that are available to help you with your budgeting, to be able to help you maybe to check and monitor your credit. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to John for a few moments and have him kind of walk us through what are some tips that we should all be taking advantage of with our budgeting.
Well, thanks, Colin. And yeah, kind of fine tuning or even, starting proper budgeting habits, and nobody can raise their hand. We're not going to call anybody out. It's okay if you're just thinking about starting great budgeting habits, or if you just need to kind of revisit ones that are already working for you. As we can see here, there's several things on the list, and I'll start at the top here. Tracking your spending for 1 month. If you can do that, great. If you're anything like me, though, maybe we need to kind of shorten it up. I would ask you to do this, and it's deceptively simple. If you can track your spending for 1 week, and that can be a trip to the grocery store, going to put fuel in the car or the truck, maybe if you have any work-related travel, little league expenses, whatever you're spending money on just for the week. I know it might be a little crazy with the holiday season right now, but if you can track your spending for 1 week, it's going to give you a really realistic, often eye-opening look at what you're really spending money on. I've done this before. I've done it a couple different times throughout this year. As a matter of fact, I found out that I was spending a lot of money on eating out and multiple trips to the grocery store, Walmart, wherever. What it let me do is kind of get a better snapshot of what I'm really doing. And it got me to realize that, I probably need to track my spending a little bit better. I'm not a real tech guy, honestly, but there are some apps out there, and free apps, which I really like free. And there are some free apps out there that can help you track your spending. I've just listed a few. We put a few up here. I know that many of you may be familiar with maybe a Rocket Money, Good Budget, Intuit, Mint. Every Dollar and Honeydew were new to me, but I'd heard about a couple of these beforehand, and these are all free. You can check them out to track your spending. Pretty useful if you need to do that. And then if we can back up to the previous slide, I want to show you something else that we probably all heard it, but it's there for a reason. If you make the small changes, then they will kind of have a snowball effect in a good way, and they will create a bigger impact. I'll give you a very brief example. I'm on the road a lot for work, visiting clients at their actual locations. And if you know me, you know that I like a good breakfast taco and a large cup of coffee in the morning to start my day. And when I'm on the road and I'm spending that money, I'm like, man, 4 or 5 days out of the week, that adds up. If I can make the coffee or get coffee at the hotel rather than driving through, it can save a little money, right? That's just a personal example. But if you can find ways to maybe fine tune, tighten up the budget in your own life, however that's going to look for you, it will add up. And a lot of times, if you can have an accountability partner, with me, it's my wife. She's very detail oriented, and it kind of keeps me on task. I know that we all probably in our own personal experiences and lives have that person that can keep us on task if we need that extra set of eyes, which can be us also with Financial Fitness for Life, or if you've got somebody in your personal life, household, that can help as well. These are just little things that we can use to keep us on track. Is budgeting fun? No, it's not, but it can really help us out, especially this month, holiday season. Good way to do that is to track expenses, have that accountability partner, and then also if you can fine tune it, fine tune the spending, and that can really help out as well.
And John, do you want to take just a second to talk to a little bit about this as we're going through all of the cash flow and as we're looking at our budget? What can folks do with some of their debts and with getting a credit report and reviewing that?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. And you know what? This is something that I do. Speaking of accountability partner, if there is one that's automated to ping me maybe once a week or once a month or every 2 weeks with some sort of regularity, great. Please help me out. There are a few here: Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. If you're familiar with Experian Boost, all of these are apps, online resources. I'm familiar with Credit Karma, and that's not plugging them. That's just what I use, and it pings me about once a week. Hey, John, there's a change to your credit score. Have you thought about these resources, etc.? Many of you are familiar with these. And then also, we are all eligible for one free copy of our credit report per the federal government, one free copy of our credit report annually. And you can go to Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. We're all familiar with the big reporting agencies. They can provide you with a copy of your credit report as well. It's good to monitor it. Again, with the holiday season, unfortunately, there are some bad folks out there that want to, do some sort of identity theft type of activities. It's always good to monitor this, your credit report to make sure that what's on there is accurate and legitimate. Also, on the back end, I guess on the good end of it, is to let us know that A, we're making some progress with paying some debts off, or B, there's some things that maybe we should set as priorities either at the end of this year right now or beginning of the next year that we can go ahead and take some action on to make sure that our own financial house is in order.
So now what I'd like to do is move over and talk a little bit about investment strategy. And so with investment strategy, there's a lot of different things that we could potentially talk about. For today, there's just going to be a couple of quick reminders that I want to walk you through. First and foremost is going to be going back and taking some time to look at your different investment accounts and reflect on your risk tolerance as an investor, and also that time period or that time horizon where you are going to be taking those accounts and investing that money. And every single one of you are at a different point in your career. You have some that may be 20 or 30 years from retirement, and others of you that are maybe within a year or two of retirement. And so this can be a good opportunity to really look at all of those investment accounts. And what I mean by that is not just looking at your retirement plan that you have through your employer, your 401k or 403b, but pulling in any other brokerage accounts that you might have, IRAs or Roth IRAs. If you have a spouse or partner, taking a look at their investment accounts and all of the different investments that they're holding as well, because what you really want to do is get a picture of everything that's going on. And then from there, you can start to look at whether or not the risk tolerance that you have is indeed reflected in the investment strategy that you're using. And also, are you taking the appropriate amount of risk based upon how much time you have before you're actually going to need that money or start to use that money. And the graphic here on the screen kind of helps you to see that your shorter term time horizons are going to oftentimes require a slightly more conservative approach, but then the further that you go out before you're going to touch the money or use the money, that does allow for you to take a more aggressive approach. And for those of you that have been kind of watching the market in 2023, we know that the market has done well. And so I think this is a good reminder to talk for a couple of moments about rebalancing, okay? Really what that means is over a given period of time, let's call it a year, 5 years, or 10 years, all of the different investments in your account, they're going to be performing differently. Some are going to go up in value, some might be going down in value. And as a result of that, the asset allocation that you started with more than likely has changed. And so in this example, these are just hypothetical examples here. You started with 50% bonds, 25% stock, 25% cash. But as you move along from the left to the right, you'll see what? That stock exposure is growing, and as a result of that, you're going to see bond and cash exposure. Now, in theory, that might not necessarily be bad, but the question that I would ask is this: what if that person at year 10 is getting ready to transition into retirement within the next 12 months? Now we have a person near retirement that has 75% exposure to stock. And in a lot of cases, that could potentially be a risk level that is too high or too aggressive for somebody that is going to be making that transition. Now, with some of the investments that you're holding, rebalancing could potentially be happening automatically. Okay, so this is not to say that you don't have an investment strategy or investments that aren't automatically doing it. But what I would recommend is that you take a few moments just to pull out your statement from November, or once you get your December statements, and just look at those different investments that you have. Make sure that some type of rebalancing is happening so that you're maintaining the risk level that you should be maintaining. And the last point here too I'll make is just that we want to make sure that your expectation for growth, what you want the account to be doing, is indeed meeting those expectations. And if it is not, then this would be, again, a fantastic opportunity. You can reach out to us and we can sit down and just help you to better understand what your investment strategy is, how it's set up to grow, and then we can look at ways for you to potentially adjust that strategy to better meet your needs and your expectations. And now kind of moving in, and John, I'll kick it back to you after we get through this savings part, just if there's any other last points that you'd like to make. Savings strategy. There's a couple of things that I think are good to hit on here, again, as we're recapping the year and as we move into 2024. The question is, how has 2023 impacted your savings, both in the short term and in the long term? And what you'll notice, for us to be able to really answer this question on the impact of our savings, we have to go through the steps that we've already outlined for you today. John went through the fact that we've got to look at our budget. We have to look at the money that's going in and going out. We have to look at how our expenses may have changed in 2023. And I know for a lot of us, with the higher inflation rate that we have, costs of goods and services have gone up, interest rates have gone up. And so if you're carrying any debt, you may be paying more interest on that. So there's more out-of-pocket expense to things like that. Once we understand those pieces, then we can come here and say, was I able to meet my short-term goals? One of the best short-term goals that everyone can set for yourself, if you haven't done so already, start building out that emergency fund and start getting to the point where you have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an easy to access account, some type of a savings account, something that's liquid. And again, we've talked to a lot of people that because of some of these changes and this rise in some of their expenses, they've had to dip into that emergency fund in 2023. If that's the case, then part of your goal moving into next year is we want to start to replenish that emergency fund and get it back to that, hopefully that 6-month reserve point. Now, the other question with the savings component that I want you to be reflecting on is contribution types, and that's where we get a little bit more into savings strategy. Are you making 100% of your contributions with pre-tax money, or are you making it a combination of pre-tax and Roth money if Roth contributions is an option? That's another important consideration to make too, because when you're making those pre-tax contributions, you're getting that tax benefit by lowering your taxable income. Okay, and so as you start to look at contribution types as a part of your savings strategy, it's important to confirm, are we going to continue with that same approach? 100% pre-tax, or are we going to mix that up to have a little bit more tax diversification? And then lastly, and those of you that were on last month in our November Fit for Learning, we talked a little bit about the importance of setting actual income goals for yourself, even if you're 20 or 30 years from retirement. And I think what we want to try to answer with your savings is, are you saving enough to be able to reach whatever goal it is that you've set for yourself? And what I mean by that is, maybe you're contributing 6% to your 401k, or 8%, or 10%. We want to make sure that that percentage does indeed match with the expectation of getting you to that specific goal that you've set for yourself. And I think, and one other point too, really quickly here to mention as well, is the company match. Making sure that you're getting that full company match. If you haven't been for whatever reason, make that another goal as you move into the new year to be able to get that entire dollar amount. And so with that, what I want to do, John, I wanted to turn it back over to you for just a second. Any additional points with folks that you've been talking to? Anything else to add on investment strategy or saving strategy as folks are recapping the year 2023?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. And it's I guess probably for about the past week and a half or so, it seems like I've gotten a lot of questions about not only investment strategy, because for whatever reason, around this time of year, people want to kind of revisit their retirement accounts, their insurance coverages, everything. I think getting ready to just spot check stuff. Maybe it's a little bit slower for them at work or whatever, but it's interesting because I've gone over asset allocations in people's 401ks, and then also they're looking more into, hey, I think I can afford to bump up maybe 1% more. Let's revisit that as well. So again, just I guess being 401k guy, just specifically with these type of activities, it makes a lot of sense, and it's an activity that a lot of people are doing right now. But also with the longer term savings goals, especially a lot of people coming off of maybe these later open enrollment periods, they've been paying attention to insurance coverages and how that affects their longer term financial strategies as well. So it's interesting to see people that either around the last part of the year or the first part of the year really wanting to take ownership and some action of what they have. I like it because people are thinking about it and it is important. And also, you get people that say, I meant to do it earlier. I haven't done it in a year or two. Can you help me out? So it's something that's on people's minds, and it's interesting to see the level of activity right now.
Exactly, and I think, John, you hit the nail on the head. It's about taking action, right? And I think that this is such a great opportunity to, as you're doing that reflection, to go ahead and start to map out what those next steps might look like. So just to kind of recap everything today, let's go back first to life events. What life events have you experienced throughout 2023? Have you really taken the time to reflect on those and update your financial plan as a result of that? And again, remember, part of that, oftentimes life events are going to impact some aspect of your estate plan, even if it's just as simple as updating a beneficiary designation. We want to make sure that happens. Then we move into, let's look at all of our expenses for 2023. And each of you in reality all have a unique personal inflation rate. And what I mean by that is just depending upon where you're at in the country, whether you're East Coast, West Coast, or Midwest, and your standard of living and lifestyle, some prices have fluctuated more for certain goods, certain services, and things like that. So as you're reflecting on these expenses, compare 2022 versus 2023, and then you can see how much inflation has impacted you. And then from there, you start to use some of those budgeting tools and tips that John talked about. You can use an app, you can use your Excel spreadsheet, and also remember to take a minute, go get your annual credit report, review that, take a look at those debts that you have, and make sure that a part of your managing your cash flow is making sure that you have a good, well thought out plan on how you're going to get rid of that debt or manage that debt. Investment strategy. Take some time, review the investment strategy, look at your risk tolerance, your time horizons, make sure all of your investment accounts are being accounted for when you're looking at your investment strategy. Also make sure that you have a system in place for rebalancing, right? To make sure that we're staying with the investment strategy that we want to have, right? We don't want that changing just because of fluctuations in the market. And then that last piece here, take advantage of your opportunities to save more in your retirement accounts, your emergency fund, 529 plans. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Look at and start to set specific goals for yourself, both in the short term and in the long term. And as John and I both have alluded to, we are here to help. And I know with the holidays, everything's kind of crazy, but I would use this as an opportunity to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to walk through essentially this checklist with you, answer any questions that you have so that each of you feel confident as you're moving into 2024. And then lastly here, all of you can kind of be the first to get signed up. We're really excited about 2024 and our Fit for Learning webinar series. As you can see here, we're going to kick things off by helping you to establish good goals for 2024, goals that are going to help you to progress and goals that are going to be appropriate for each of you individually. So with that, I just want to wish each and every one of you a great rest of 2023. Really appreciate a lot of you for attending these monthly webinars, for giving feedback. Again, best of luck, enjoy the rest of the year, and we will see you in 2024. Thanks so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.